So what are the application? Like I said, it may be of food or drug delivery or cosmetics. Cosmetics is very, very important because now I think the cosmetic industry is like $1 billion club. So the people are more into, they have to make a material, but they can't afford to, like SPF cream. If you have a sun protection cream, you can't load the sun protection that material, that is very expensive. So your base is your cream. The base cream, they just make it in the small micro or nano particle, and they use this. So when you're rubbing your micro SPF cream, that means it will break and it will release your sun protection material. So that's how it's happening. So the cosmetic sector is like picking like anything. And another one is sensor. Why we have to encapsulate? Most of the cases, the material should be inert. Whatever I'm loading, I want to get back. The second case is like, maybe it's very flavonoid kind of materials, easy to evaporate, volatile. So I can't transfer one place to another place. I can't use it. So that condition, we need to put it in a capsule and we can break it. The another, some cases, taste. Some taste you have to mask it because the tablets, when you're doing that, they have to mask the taste by adding some flavor. So how they add the flavor? They encapsulate it. That means when they encapsulate that, they just control the flavor or the bitter taste, but it will not react with your drug. That's a benefit for that. And handling, we have to handle in a such a way that the ease of operation is important. So overall, these microspheres or the micro encapsulation is a wide area of applications, but we have to plan in a such a way and optimize the conditions. So what are the type of microspheres? It may be natural or it may be synthetic or the metal or the ceramic base. The natural, first one is a synthetic. Synthetic is a man-made, and more the thing is some polymers are there. And natural generally polyvinyl alcohol or marine polysaccharides or whatsoever. We can make microspheres out of all these polymers. Ceramic, what they do now, they do make ceramic balls or they do load the ceramic material in the polymeric microspheres to get things. And some more sensitive polymers like very like silk fibroin, gelatin, keratin, these are all I think keratin based shampoo, hair treatment, something are coming. What they do, they load the keratin material in your medium, then when you are applying, when you're rubbing, it will release, so it will promote your hair growth. The logic is the sensitive material, volatile material, expensive material, this has to be encapsulated in a matrix that should be inert, and we will get back by applying some physical forces. It may be rubbing or temperature or sonication whatsoever. So now we'll see how to prepare that. Generally, the micro encapsulation, how they form, like all I think about emulsion. 10 ml of water, you have 1 ml of water, 1 ml of coconut oil, you add, then you can see the two clear layers. So when you shake that, shake that, then you can see still two layer, but in between these two layer, you can see a layer transient, layer where you can see the micro bubbles. That means that layer is not liquid, that layer is not water, again, nor coconut oil in between. So that means the emulsion, they call it as an emulsion. That emulsion may be water in oil. That means water make a emulsion where inside the coconut oil was gone inside, or coconut oil make a shell outside and water gone inside. So that is the reason in between two layers you have a micro bubbles. When you start adding more and more of coconut oil, let's say 50-50, then you can see more amount of emulsion and the sizes of bigger. That means this value, they call it as water in oil, the HLB ratio and other things, you are able to make a emulsion. Okay, emulsion we made, how far it's stable? Because when you shake, you can see the emulsions, but when you leave it as such, after some times it will settle down and most of the emulsion will break out, and only very minor quantity, 1 to 2% of the emulsion still retain its shape. That means you need to have a medium, they call it as surfactant. I think everybody is aware the surfactant to maintain or to break the surface tension so that the capsule, the spherical shape will be formed. So the first case, what we do, we try to make a emulsion. That emulsion, we allow it certain time, the wall, the capsule wall or the shell wall will be formed. Again, some cases they do cross-linking so that they will not be soluble. Then finally, we are able to get that. The logic is emulsion formation followed by stabilization and the skin layer formation, and you end up in getting your microcapsules. So let me show you how to prepare a solution. Let's say this yellow color bottle solution, these are all made from polyether sulfur. So we need to have a proper lid, air-proof container. So I take the polyether sulfone polymer, I dried overnight at 70, and I'm sure there is no moisture in my polymer. Then I use like a solvents, dimethylformamide or N-methylpyrrolidone or gamma butyroactone. And I think the polymer solution preparation takes at least 1 day for you. You can see the white color magnetic pellets are inside. So once the solution is ready, we put it in the fume hood, ambient condition, let it evaporate. In some cases, if you feel more gases are there, the bubbles are there, we do decasification. So the next day, the solution is ready. Next day, we go for the preparation. There are two type of techniques we use. The logic is same. We are applying some pressure. We are doing the physical extrusion process to able to get the microspheres. The first, just for the proof of concept, we take the small beaker. We have a Teflon module. The phase one is a Teflon module. Inside, we have a monopore membrane. Means the membrane has only one pore. We fix the monopore membrane with screws, and this is like a Teflon container. We pour our polymer solution there. The phase two is the oil phase, because before making a microspheres, you have to make the emulsion. How to make an emulsion? You have to have an aqueous phase and oil phase. So in that case, we have a polymer solution and we need a oil phase. Oil phase, we were using like hydrocarbons like dodecane, isooctane, octane, everything. And in this case, we were using dodecane. The next phase is the phase two, or they call it as a coagulation phase. Coagulation, something is liquid, it turns into turbid or solid, they call it as a coagulation. So what we do here is, generally in making a membrane, we used to have a liquid, they call it a coagulation bath. We used to take it in a tray like water, surfactant plus some ethanol. So the solution is ready in ambient condition. We take some water, surfactant, we use sodium dodecyl sulfate to 8%, and we added some alcohol, like low carbon, less than C4. I use, I think, ethanol and isopropanol, because methanol is very small. So you can't get that, you can't stabilize the emulsion with methanol. But ethanol and isopropanol is okay, because C2 and C3 carbon. But butanol C4 is also a longer chain, because this again will come and interact. So I use this condition. So what are your polymer solution? We pour on the phase one, that is your Teflon module containing a monopore membrane. I didn't apply any external pressure, because automatically due to gravity the solution will fall down. But I have only one pore membrane, that is monopore membrane. I used to get one drop by drop of my polymer solution is coming and touching the phase two. Phase two is my oil phase. There I can see the transparent emulsion is forming. After, because it's a continuous process, it will fall down immediately. Moment it that touches the water, that is your phase inversion is happening. So once I optimized that, I was able to get like 800 to 900 micron polymer microsphere. The same I applied in a membrane emulsification. Here I used the membrane emulsified kit, but I used metallic membrane. This metallic membrane we bought from UK. They have a micropore company. They have a circle of membranes that is metallic with pores. So the same technique I upgraded. Here I was able to get 50 micron, just 50 micron. Here I able to get 900 micron. Here just 50 micron of same polymer microspheres. Here it's like balls. Here we able to get like a powder. And when we saw the image under the microscope, scanning electron microscope, we know it's like, microspheres. So this is the last setup I used. This is like a normal glass beaker. The yellow color, the white color one, you can see the Teflon module. Maybe it may not be visible. When the second picture, you can see the white color things are coming. That is your microsphere. The third one, whatever the microsphere, we were able to make it. It's like a continuous process. We don't need to apply much of pressure. Only we need an ambient condition. And once it depends, like if I use like a 10 gram of polymers, maybe I end up in getting 5 to 7 grams of microspheres. We have to wash many times, because we are using a hydrocarbon solvent. We have to make sure the solvents are removed, and we store it in an airtight container in an ambient condition. So generally we put it in the nitrogen atmosphere. So we can use even many years we can use it like that because it's synthetic polymer. The similar method we can use for the biopolymer, ketosene, everything we made. Only we have to change the experimental, the solution conditions. We use more of alcohol than water, and we will end up in getting a biopolymer microspheres. This is the schematic approach. In some cases, if your solution is highly viscous, it's not going down with your monopore membrane, we apply some nitrogen pressure just to push the solution go down from the monopore membrane to the interface, the phase 2, your oil phase, and the next phase is your coagulation bath, where you will end up in immediately. It's like, one stage. Liquid is coming, it will become emulsion. The same moment, once it touches the phase 3 of the coagulation bath, it will become your microspheres. It's like ease of operation is very important in the process. We used to make like kilos. We have a bigger unit in the lab, and we used to make kilos. Like 2 days we run continuously with the system, and we used to make that. And we use for the radiochemistry effluent treatment in some cases. This is the setup I mentioned, the microemulsion setup from Micropore UK technology. The first one is a membrane. This is a metallic membrane. The specialty of the membrane is the pore size. It's not like everywhere pores are there. They call it as a ranged membrane. Means one circle they make, the whatever the inner circle they have only that line. You can say 10 to 12 pores. That means you are very sure the active surface area or active the area where the pores are open. So you end up in getting, because when you are reducing the size, the flow should be controlled, or the material whatever is coming down should be controlled. Otherwise, the moment the microspheres are formed, it will collapse each other. So we need to control that. So we use that micropore technology, and this is an emulsion tank. It's a Teflon unit. In down we used to fix the ranged membrane, and we use the solution with, we pump that, and this is a sterile. And the moment it goes inside, in the inside figure clearly shows the base is coming. And I try to, because we are using the same coagulation bath like water, alcohol, and sodium dodecyl sulfate. So we were able to we were able to break the surface tension, and we were able to get the figure, like, the spherical shape, that's called emulsion. But visibly when you see, only you can see some turbidity, but we have to wash. And when we so under the microscope and the scanning electron microscope, we can see it's like a white color normal your talcum powder. But when we did the TEM analysis, we were able to do the microtome. We cut the microspheres of 50 micron size, and we can see the cross section is exactly look like a membrane, because this is our aim. We have to load something and it has to be released in a proper way. That means we don't want a hollow microsphere, we don't want a filled microsphere, we want a channeled microsphere. It's like a channel. Something has to be loaded, something has to be come out in a uniform way. So how to characterize the membrane? This is the same image, scanning electron image of my polyether sulfone microscope. It looks very smooth. Even I was surprised. Usually when you see, it doesn't look like that way, but in the microscope images are better. First thing is we need to see the size. The next thing is, if it is a chemical, when you're adding more than one, if it is a composite, we have to check the IR. What are the chemical components are there? And in some cases, we use some carbon, then we do Raman. And how about the thermal stability? Because thermogravimetric analysis also we do, we understand how many components are there in your microsphere. From your weight loss pattern, you will understand, yeah, I have polymer, I have encapsulating material, I have this. And scanning electron microscope, obviously for the morphology, surface, cross section. EDX is again it's a qualitative proof to understand whether you have loaded something that is there. So this is a pictures. This first one is the surface. Now what we do, we have a special kind of plates, sharp and blades are there. We use to cut. We put the microsphere in the liquid nitrogen. That means you are freezing. And we take it out immediately. We cut with the special blades, and we were able to cut into two halves. And this is of the cross section. So it's more or less, it looks like a normal orange. So these channels are I'm more bothered, because whatever you are loading inside, this has to come out. Unless and otherwise, if you don't have this kind of morphology, this will not come out. So what we did is, we take the polyether sulfone and we loaded some ionic liquid inside. We want this ionic liquid has to come out for some pollution control applications. And that's the reason we were doing these to replicate The morphology should be more or less like membranes. So this is the optical microscopic pictures. That's a powder, whatever you are getting in membrane emulsification. We take sample every, time bone. We take sample. A 5 minute sample we took immediately. We see small number of microspheres are coming. When the time is increasing, obviously more microsphere. I think in 1 hour, 1 hour is the maximum time we ran the experiment. We were able to get sufficient amount, and the similar samples were analyzed through scanning electron microscope, and this is like the major too. So the final image is again, it's a 50 micron size, the material. We use the same condition, but we were able to replicate, we were able to reproduce the same microspheres like a smooth surface and spherical in shape. So that means we can reduce the size and we can load anything inside the microsphere. What we do generally, we size, we have the digital micrometer, and we were able to show that, yeah, without ionic liquid and with ionic liquid also, we were able to, the structure is retained, the shape is retained. Just we are adding ionic liquid as a loading inside as an encapsulant, but still we were able to retain the shape. That's what proven here using the size. The next one is a comparison. The first one is a biopolymer microsphere, and the down one is a synthetic polymer microsphere. Obviously, the synthetic polymers are more smooth and biopolymers, because the biopolymers are highly hydrophilic in nature, and comparative to synthetic polymers is completely hydrophobic in nature. The biopolymers are hydrophilic in nature, but we were able to make the similar size and structure is maintained. So we can say we can load any material. The biopolymers, most of the cases in edible cases, and some sensors and drug delivery application. The synthetic polymers for pollution control applications. Okay. The next one is again is how the 20 to 50 micron microspheres we prepared using the membrane emulsification technique. So the first one is like a scanning electron microscope. When you zoom, when you go for the higher magnification, we can see each microsphere shows some pores. This is what interesting actually. So though the microsphere looks like normal without pores, when you zoom it, we were able to see the pores. The pores are the important parameter for the leaching. The pores are the important channels. The material, whatever you are loading inside, has to come out. So really confident, yeah, we can load anything inside by applying some physical forces or the temperature or some other condition. We were able to deliver or release the material loaded in your microspheres, because after seeing the pores, we were confident, yeah, we were able to make the microspheres. These some, so not only ionic liquid, we will have some kind of the batteries or the old computer CPUs. When they discarded, they take the motherboard. These piece, I think I did it in sincere, right? Some research scholars, they take the material, they take the noble metals from the motherboard, the remaining, the carbon, other things are there. They do pyrolysis, some process. Then we were able to make a nano material from the waste motherboards of different shape. We have a nano rod, nano tube, nano sheet, everything. What is the special here is, because we are taking from the waste motherboard or computer monitor screen and that stuff, naturally they have some carbon because they use carbon. So whatever the nanoparticle we made, that nanoparticle have carbon. So for any biological, antimicrobial, antifungal application, the carbon is very important. Here we are getting a nanoparticle from waste. That nanoparticle has an inherent quality. It is carbon adhered with it. So how to prove that? What we did is we take a little sample of nanoparticle. After doing characterization, the final, we want to see how it looks a little bit. We sonicated, we put it in the TEMS tab, and we do the tunneling electron microscope. This tunneling electron microscope, the red color squares means it was adhered with carbon. The next picture clearly shows is like the cloudy movement. These are all carbon. So these materials, nanoparticles, also we can load inside your microspheres. We can use it for the similar pollution control and other applications. The same material, by changing the experimental condition, we got nanotube and some cases nanocubes, nanosheets with particular the fringes also we get, and we prove by XPS and Raman that there are some carbon, though its weight percentage is very less, but it's a carbon loaded or carbon metal nanoparticles, so titania, copper, zinc, they call it as metal nanoparticle loaded with carbon. We use this inside your polymer microspheres loaded, and we did some pollution control application like water oil removal, metal removal, dye removal, everything. So this is how it looks. When we load the microsphere with a nanotube or nanometal, and that microsphere we loaded in that. We have a two types of loader. Firstly, we have a nanoparticle that we loaded in the microsphere, that is polymer microsphere. That polymer microsphere, we put it in the polymer solution and we cast the flat sheet membrane. So when you see the morphology, when you see the cross section, here you see the channels. It's like a big channels. The similar channels inside the red colors are marking that the nanotubes are there. But we didn't put the nanotube directly. We put the nanotube in a polymer microsphere and we loaded the nanotube, loaded microsphere into the polymer membrane. And we were able to do that. Again, we did, I think, oil water removal. That means wherever you want to use the microsphere, you have to plan in a such a way and you will be able to make. And this microsphere can withhold the material, whatever is loaded inside in the structure. Only by doing deducts, we understand that the distribution of this red color, it indirectly shows our halo nanotube loaded polymer microsphere. And this membrane we use for oil water removal. That means we are very sure metal nanoparticle leaching is not happening, because once you load that, people work it for the water purification whatsoever. The leaching, nanoparticle leaching is a big question, how to make sure you are not generating a secondary pollution. But here we are very sure the nanoparticles are not leaching, because the nanoparticles are holded by a polymeric gas that is in a spherical shape. So just it will do its operation. And this antimicrobial properties and other thing we studied with that, and it was we can see the surface using this nanoparticle. We can see the surface growth of the bacteria are completely reduced compared to the pristine membrane, the same membrane without the nanoparticle. So overall, we will be able to make a nanoparticle loaded microspheres, and we do pollution control application, or we can load some drug formulations and use for the targeted or controlled delivery, or maybe you can use it for perfume industry, cosmetic. Everything we need to plan in a such a way that, but we will be able to do by proper planning and organization. And overall, this is what I would say. Like using the normal phase inversion, we were able to make a microspheres of 900 micron. With the same formulation, we upgraded using a microemulsification, and we were able to get 20 to 50 micron. Maybe it's more than 10 times we are reducing the size, but the cross section, morphology, surface, porosity, everything is same. Only we reduce the size. Anything we reduce the size, we are increasing the active surface area. Obviously, it's beneficial for work, whatever the work you are planning. So using this microsphere phase inversion technique and microemulsification, membrane emulsification, we were able to make a polymer microsphere loaded with different things for variety of applications. I think, thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful presentation, sir. Really enlightening the people who are attend the program. And it is a very happy moment for us as a Marie Curie fellow present in Tanbio R&D solution. That is very really great thing in our career, Tanbio R&D solution career. I'm very happy, ma'am. I'm very and I am share this section to the audience. Audience who are like to ask question to Dr. Sandhana Lakshmi ma'am, kindly raise your hands. Dr. Kumaran Shanmugam sir, you can ask your question, ma'am.
So good morning, Dr. Sandhana Lakshmi.
Good morning, Dr. Kumaran.
Thank you for the presentation, and it's a nice presentation. So I have a question like, do you have any, I mean, I know you are vast experience, you worked in many fields. So we are currently working on waste, drinking water treatment. So do you have,
Okay.
particularly fluoride removal, and we are interested, as well as arsenic, I think you have already worked. And,
Yeah, arsenic I did it before.
Calcium and so on, these are we interested. So do you have an idea which is very cost effective and very important for remote villages?
Yeah, because I think the fluoride contaminant is close to Tiruchi, some area. It's highly contaminated with fluoride in Tamil Nadu. Yeah, the fluoride removal we can do, because arsenic similar one we did. We take the material, whatever the chelating agents we want to use it, we load it in the polymer microsphere. In the West Bengal, you can see like it's the water pump. They have a column. That column was filled with that. So maybe in lifetime of this, maybe years, like every 6 months is like you have to renovate, you have to check the pH. Is it possible to load and you can use it in the column kind of material? And when you're pumping the water, the groundwater first will touch your material, where you have a material that can control the or remove the fluoride or arsenic. Then whatever is coming out, you have to make sure it's like it's potable. It is possible.
So we were interested into if to collaborate with you, particularly for fluoride removal and the calcium removal, but particularly in Tanjore region, you know that it's very high calcium. So is it like what's cost effective? We don't want a very high end technology for the even the village people can afford. That's the idea. So is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Can do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Why not for Tanjavur? Tanjavur has gave me everything. So
thank you.
Any other wants to ask question to Dr. Sandhanalakshmi ma'am? Kindly raise your hands. If anyone like to ask question, Dr. Sandhanalakshmi ma'am, kindly raise your hands. Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much for your pleasant and beautiful presentations. We are very happy to see in this occasion Biojana 2021 organized by Tanvay R&D Solution. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. And now, Soundarya. Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, you speak.
yeah, I should say thank you to Dr. Kumran. Kumran, he is my senior in Nana University, so he always send this kind of information to me. He's the one. The other day around 11, he said, "Can you give lecture on that?" I immediately said, "Okay." I didn't even ask what is standby, what is that. So I should thank Dr. Kumran for initiating that. So I'm happy to share my knowledge. And anything, if anybody has doubts or any kind of clarifications, even they can mail me. I think I have my email ID or contact me later. Thank you so much, Dr. Purushothaman, for generating some awareness in Tanjavur about research. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And now, Soundarya, give the vote of thanks to Dr. Sandhanalakshmi ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your vast expertise with us. Your presentation was brimming with useful information on microsphere encapsulation technology. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Bye.